Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going through a series of video presentations I'm making for the Rankin Technical College AWD, that's Application and Website Development program, and in particular the AWD 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class. The book used for the class is Pro-ASP.NET MVC 5, an A-Press text by Adam Freeman. And what I've been doing is going through each chapter. I'm now just about to the end of Chapter 4, and there are 27 chapters. So I'm almost 4 out of 27 done. All right. And in this particular last section, which is the last 3 or 4 pages, we talk about async methods. Async short for asynchronous. One of the big recent additions to C# is improvements in the way asynchronous methods are dealt with. Asynchronous methods go off and do work in the background and notify you when they're complete, allowing your code to do other business. So imagine that you had to live your life. For instance, if you look here, this is what I've got open right now. All right, I've got the PDF for the document I'm showing you. I've got a browser window open. I've got my program open here. I've got a thing that I ran off for my daughter. I've got a thing I ran off to give one of the other instructors. I've got a list of spreadsheets, and I've got some other stuff. Actually, I've got this twice, it looks like. But regardless, the idea is, what if I could only have one thing open at a time? So in other words, if I was in Camtasia, as I am right now, recording this video, and I wanted to leave, I shouldn't say I wanted to leave, but if I wanted to go out to a browser window, I'd have to leave Camtasia, that kind of an idea. All right. Asynchronous methods, as mentioned right there, are an important tool in removing bottlenecks from code and allowing apps to take advantage of multiple processors and process cores to work in parallel. C# and .NET, as it says, have excellent support for asynchronous methods, but the code tends to be verbose and kind of hard to use. As an example here, the next listing will show an asynchronous method called getPageLength, which is defined in a class called myAsyncMethods and added to the models folder in myasyncmethods.cs. So it sounds like the first thing we're going to want to do here is to come in here and go into our models folder, right mouse click, choose add, go down to class, change the name from class 1 to myAsyncMethods. There it is. All right, we jump into here, and what do we have? What I want to put in here is this. All right, you notice that I'm getting some error messages. Not worried right now about that. Okay, looks like I'm getting part of the errors at least. I believe this must go on to another page. Oh, I don't have the end of it highlighted. How about that? So let's copy that. All right, I think that return statement, I think the end stuff that I just put in here, I think that belongs at the end, but we'll see. We'll just grab this whole thing right there. All right. Okay, so what is left? That's the key thing. First of all, notice I've got this. Probably missing a using statement. System threading tasks. All right, that got rid of that. HTTP clients. Using system.net.http. Do you remember? Much earlier much earlier we went back and we added that reference for using system.net.http. All right, and I guess that's why we were adding it. Seems like a long, long, long time ago. I was missing a couple curlies. There we go. All right. So tell you what, let's go back to the code. It's much easier, I think, always to look at the code. All right. And the author says here, this is a simple method that uses the system.net.http client object to request the contents of the APress homepage and return its length. The author has highlighted the part of the method, and that really is the return statement that's in here. So now I've highlighted it. That tends to cause confusion. It's an example of task continuation. .NET represents work that will be done asynchronously as a task. Task objects are strongly typed based on the result of that the background work produces. So as the author says here on page 92, when he calls HTTP client, the HTTP client .getAsync method, which you see right there, what is returned is the task HTTP response message, which tells him that the request will be performed in the background and the result of the request will be an HTTP response message object. All right. The part where most programmers get bogged down is the continuation, which is the mechanism by which you specify what you want to have happen in the background task. That again is in the return statement. The first use of the return keyword, there's actually two returns in here if you notice. So the first usage of the return keyword specifies that what's being returned is a task HTTP response object, which when the task is complete will return the length of the content length header. That content length header returns a long result, and this means that the result of the get page length method is going to be done. All right. It says, don't worry if this doesn't make any sense. The big takeaway from here is that by using async, if you've got a job that might take a long time, all right, that job can be done in the background. The point is, if it does take a long time and you need the results, okay, to my knowledge, you're not going to be able to use the results until it returns. All right. Now, they do mention in here, and I'm on the bottom of page, or about halfway down, on page 93, applying the async and await keywords. Microsoft introduced two keywords to C# that are specifically intended to simplify using async methods. Those words are async and await. All right, so we've got this get page length method in here. You can see them all used right there. The author used the await keyword when calling the asynchronous method to tell the C# compiler to wait for the result of the task and then carry on executing other statements in that same method. Applying the await keyword means that you can treat the result from the get async method as though it were a regular method and just assign the HTTP response method object that it returns to a variable. When you use the await keyword, you must also add the async keyword to the method signature, as the author has done in the example here. So in this chapter, you got an overview of some of the key components, some of the key C# language features, and whether or not you understand everything isn't what's really important here. What is really important here is that you've been exposed to these things, and once the author goes through them in more and more detail, ideally at least, they'll make sense to you. So I'll be back, because this concludes Chapter 4, so I'll be back with Chapter 5, which is on working with Razor, in just a few minutes.